And she knew Latrice. She put a comment like, I just found out Latrice took her life. How can someone be so selfish? You're so young. There's people dying in the hospital. And she just went on. I just remember those words. And I was so mad. I wanted to pick up the phone and just slap her, shake her, because I was just like, how dare you say someone is so selfish? And there's a lot of people that feel that, though. If you talk about suicide, if you talk about the stigma, if you talk about the fear, people don't know until you do know.
This is a podcast called The Many Faces of StellaNova, a podcast for the StellaNova Foundation. Here's your host, Scott Arthur.
On today's episode of Many Faces, we're facing one of the hardest subjects, suicide. Every year in America, nearly 49,000 people take their own life. That's one suicide every 12 minutes. Suicide. For many families, it's a word whispered in the shadows, surrounded by pain and silence. But silence doesn't heal. It isolates. You'll hear first from someone who experienced a suicide loss, and then from a young lady representing a nationwide organization dedicated to saving lives and bringing hope to those affected by suicide. So now let's turn our attention to Carmen Martinez. Sitting across from me, she's got the brightest smile and outlook on life. She just glows. She's a much sought-after professional model, and she is living the American dream. So welcome. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
Carmen, 14 years ago, that American dream became a nightmare. When you were in college, your best friend took her own life.
Absolutely.
Can you share a favorite memory that maybe captures her before her struggles?
It's her smile, honestly. She was, people look at me and they think I'm like a go-getter and just kind of, always just go in front of things. But I actually got that from her. I was very quiet when I moved here. And just I'm listening to you, listing those statistics. And you're right. I never thought suicide was in my vocabulary. So losing her, even 14 years now, you get happy moments when you think of just the memories that you have. And then you get the grief and sad moments because a lot of people suffer in silence. And she was one of them.
Thinking back, did you have any hint of this? Was there any signs of struggle?
No, we were young, when you're in college, just like when you're a teenager, you kind of omit things like, oh, it's going to pass. So I did notice signs of depression off and on. But I thought it was just normally from breakups, from dating someone and you're like, oh, I'll get over it. But no one guides you at all. No one teaches you anything. And it's not until you're going through it of what she was really diagnosed. And her situation was a little bit different because the medication she was taking kind of gave her suicidal thoughts. And that's something that no one ever shared. So in our eyes, just like when you have a headache, you're thinking, oh, I'll take Tylenol. We really were pushing that medication on her. And we were, not knowledgeable that is a sign when you do take those types of medications. So she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. We did everything right, everything that we were told, except the research and education that you're supposed to kind of do on your own.
Mm. So tell me a little bit about how you found out about this. What was your reaction?
So she did say one thing 3 days before her passing. She said, I don't see myself being here for my next birthday. And birthdays for us were like our, Academy Award moments, our Grammy moments. We would go all out. Traveling was like a huge thing for us. We loved the water, loved the beach. And when she said that, I remember the moment very well. I remember the time. I remember everything. And I just was like, that's odd. Why would she say that? So I called her mom and I was like, Latrice just said this and and I don't think we really knew how to take that or if that was a warning sign. And then it happened 3 days later. So the way I found out was her sister called me. She was under medical care at that time. And honestly, now looking back, the medical care team that she had was not the right team for her. And I speak on it now, every moment that I get is, check on the medication, but also check on the care team because she went to the doctor. They did a 24 hours the next day, like, hey, she's saying these things. We're really worried. And the doctor at that time basically said, well, she doesn't look like my other patients. She's too pretty to do that. And I'll never forget those words. I wasn't with her because she's my best friend. So, family members, could only be there, but I found out after.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think it was terrible. I think he disregarded her feelings. He disregarded what she was feeling inside. I think the medication by that time was completely just not making her feel right. The problem with medications, like any medication that you take, you got to go through, all the side effects, and then you kind of lean off on the ones that give you the less side effects. And that's the medication that works. No one ever told us that it takes 30 to 45 days sometimes to even see results. We were thinking it's an immediate thing. No one ever told us that, not even a medical team. The fact that her doctor basically said, "You're not like my other patients," I think that goes right into the stigma of suicide, the face of suicide. I never even mentioned the word suicide till this experience. So to me, looking back, and I teach on it now, I speak on it now, and my experience is suicide has no faces. It can touch any moment at any time, and it doesn't affect you till it affects you. So for me now, the way I keep her memory is sharing her story, sharing all the red warning signs, because after educating myself and really indulging, even in the aftermath, I took mental health classes to teach myself on, like, okay, what were those signs that I missed, or how can I help someone else? And I just became so involved into just learning more and wanting to know more and keeping her story alive. That's how I kind of keep her memory alive.
Oh, it's a sad learning experience.
Exactly.
Wow. So take me back there. Her friends, the students, how did they react?
So the moment it happened that day, like any tragedy, you get bombarded with, like, what happened? Or she looked so young, and she looked so pretty, and she looked so great. Well, she wasn't great, because she was very terrified to know, or for the public to know, or even family members. Only like 5 people knew in her family: her mom, her sister, her dad, myself, and 2 other people, that she had a mental illness, which is perfectly fine. People live a normal life with mental illness. But back then, we didn't know what that even meant. So she was terrified to get that stigma, to get a label behind it. So she's like, please don't tell anyone. So we started just still being in public, and you can see the fear in her face. Her reactions were different than we were nervous, because we didn't know how to act. So, people called you that day, and they were just like, what happened? I think when it comes to suicide, people just think of that moment, and people just want to know all these things that really don't matter. But I remember one particular post of this person that I knew, and I was so infuriated that when I read that post on Facebook, because it's part of the stigma that a lot of people say is, she put a comment, and she knew Latrice. She put a comment like, I just found out Latrice took her life. How can someone be so selfish? You're so young. There's people dying in the hospital. And she just went on. I just remember those words. And I was so mad. I wanted to pick up the phone and just slap her, shake her, because I was just like, how dare you say someone is so selfish? And there's a lot of people that feel that, though. If you talk about suicide, if you talk about the stigma, if you talk about the fear, people don't know until you do know. One of the main things of why I became a mental health advocate is to share what not to say. People is like, oh, I know what to say. I'm like, you really don't know what to say. And these are the things that you shouldn't say. You don't know what people are going through. It's definitely not a selfish act. And it was just very sad. I think over the years, it took me 3 years to mention the word suicide before breaking down. And I went to a health fair, and I was just cruising. It was a health fair on the north side of Houston, and I found a table that said American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I literally almost fell down. I was like, there is a foundation, American suicide. Like, I was just like, nobody ever even said that. So I took a flyer. They have an annual walk, and I was like, wow, I would love to volunteer and learn more about a foundation that's out there on a national level that really focuses on giving people hope and research and preventative measures of how this can, help someone.
Hey, by the way, if you just tuned in, you're listening to Many Faces. Got a question. Is there anyone among us who hasn't witnessed a friend, a family member, a neighbor, or a business associate experiencing a mental health issue or episode? Depression, addiction, domestic violence, even self-harm? This program raises the volume of the conversation to discover solutions. Find out more at StellaNovaFoundation.org. Now, let's get back to the conversation. Back then, your friends must have been confused and not really knowing what to do. Did they have any support groups there?
No such thing. I think before when she was diagnosed, we pretty much honestly kept it in silent. And I think that's one of the biggest, I know it's hard to talk about. Looking back, I mean, it's 14 years and, there's moments I break down, there's moments I'm super happy. But I think keeping silence, there's also a shame when it comes to suicide because people just focus on the method, right? And you're not supposed to even focus on that. But that's how society kind of thinks about suicide. It's, why. And I don't think it's the why or the method. I think it's more of how can we help someone feel secure to seek help and to say, I am fearful of this or I'm feeling this. So I think looking back, we kept it pretty silent. Her family kept it pretty silent. I kept it pretty silent. Obviously, we knew she had passed away due to suicide. But there was nothing really around us. And it really took me, my passion to learn from others and learn how I can be a voice to prevent others to, go that route.
That's one of the things that you're doing to honor her life.
Yeah. Her birthday's actually September 4th, which she shares a birthday with Beyonce. So Beyonce was her favorite singer. So I always kind of play songs around that day. But yeah, now I speak on it, on my experience. I speak on it, on everything that even as a best friend, she was like a sister to me. You saw her, you saw me. But my strength and my smile, my personality really comes from her.
So you now work with or volunteer with a foundation, right?
Yeah, so I worked for them for a year. Now I'm a volunteer, and I loved it. One thing that I didn't even know that this whole foundation is held together by volunteers like myself and other people around on the nation. They've unfortunately, lost someone as well, or maybe some of them just really want to volunteer. They have no connections, but the unity that unites us is the importance of keeping that conversation and keeping those preventative measures alive.
And there is a foundation for that, which leads us to our next guest, Vanessa Ayala Medina. Did I get that right?
Yes, Ayala Medina.
You say it a lot better than I do. And you are a spokesperson for the American Foundation for the Prevention of Suicide. So welcome. Give us a little background on the foundation, what it does.
Yes, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention is a nationwide organization. They're also in Puerto Rico. And basically what we do is that we save lives and we provide hopes to those that have been affected by suicide. We do a lot of fundraising. And Carmen mentioned one of the walks is one of the fundraising events. And the funds that we raise, we use them for research. There is a lot of research about suicide. We use the money as well for prevention programs. We don't get quiet. We go everywhere in the community to educate the community. The age doesn't matter neither. We go into the schools. We go into organizations.
What do we most often misunderstand about suicide and those considering suicide?
The number one thing that I want to say, Scott, is that suicide is preventable. Carmen mentioned the stigma. She did mention about how selfish of Latrice, right? However, everybody that kills themselves, everybody that takes their lives, there is a mental health issue right under it. Now, not everybody that suffers from a mental health issue will take their own lives, okay? But everybody that takes their life has a mental health issue. People don't look for help because they feel that if I ask for help, it's a sign of weakness, which it's the opposite. It's a sign of courage. And that is the number one thing is that if you are experiencing any symptoms, any signs, when you're diagnosed with a mental health condition, it's just like if you go to the doctor because you're eating unhealthy foods and you get diagnosed with high cholesterol. Mental health is the same thing. It's a disease in the brain. And that's what people don't understand. That is just the same way you go to the doctor and get your blood work, to check your cholesterol. They check your blood pressure. The The same way you do that, the same way you go to the ophthalmologist and get glasses. Everybody should take care of their mental health. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of courage. It's a sign of you taking care of your personal. It's a matter of personal integrity, for you to take care of yourself. And mental health is one aspect of you.
It's funny. A lot of people don't measure mental health and suicide as the same thing. And that's suicide is one thing, mental health is another.
Right.
But it is mental health for sure.
Right.
And I'm wondering, you had talked about maybe going to a doctor, you have cholesterol, you have these things. And there are people that'll say, okay, I know what's wrong with me, but they go into denial. And they say, no, I don't, no, I can take care of that myself. Or if someone is experiencing something, going through suicidal thoughts, they don't even think about denial. They just, it's like, leave me alone, I'm okay. And there's a lot of silence and there's a lot of shame involved. How do you address that?
I am speaking not only to the people that are thinking about taking their own lives. I am speaking to also the family members and the friends, the community that is around those individuals. The same way there are signs for any other illness, there are also signs when you are contemplating killing yourself.
But are those signs to yourself or to others?
Both, to yourself and to others. But like you said, when your state of mind, when you're in that frame of mind, you might not realize it,
right.
Okay? When you are in pain, this is an emotional pain, okay, that it feels physically. When you are in pain, if you think of what is the time that you have the most excruciating pain in your life, okay, and I come around and I ask you, can you give me detailed directions on how to get to your house? You're not going to be able to. Your focus on your pain is the same thing with somebody that is contemplating of taking their lives. Okay? They are in so much pain, there is no green light at the end of the tunnel.
2 questions, though. How do you know someone's in that pain and how do you break through?
You see, most of the time, the same way Latrice was said to Carmen, I don't think I'm going to be here for my next birthday.
Mm-hmm.
You pay attention to the way they talk, okay? It's like something, a comment like that, or I am a burden for people. It's not worth it, me living here anymore. I have so much pain that I'm better off dead. You pay attention to those subtle comments because they're very subtle, okay?
Are they cries for help?
Yes. In a way, yes.
That's one thing, if I can add on, I didn't know any of these things. Red warning signs, signals, there's so many. And I looked, and when I found the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and there's different classes, like Vanessa said, there's different age groups. It's a scary subject, it is. But it's also preventative. And you have to have the people that do not ignore those signs. When I looked at those signs, and these are some of the beautiful things that the foundation teaches you, Latrice had almost like all of them. And I'm like, oh my God. But no one teaches you that until the aftermath. So I think as a community, we can also take that initiative to just educate yourself, just like you educate on anything else, and just, have that conversation.
But it seems like a small percentage of the population is educating themselves. So that's what the foundation is about?
We provide education, yeah. We provide resources. Let me tell you about 2 other warning signs,
Sure.
Okay? I talked about the way they talk. Another one is about the way they behave. They start giving out their possessions. They change their sleep patterns. They either sleep too much or they don't sleep that much. They start using substances. They withdraw from the family. Now, you might think, oh, Vanessa, now you're talking about a teenager, right? But no, it's when the signs are heavy, okay? When they are not being themselves. And another warning sign is the way they feel, okay? They can go into a depression. They can go up and down. They can be depressed today and tomorrow they're extremely happy and excited. So if you see that fluctuation, so you pay attention to those three things: the way they talk, the way they behave, and their way of being, how they feel. Those, pay attention to those three.
So the way that you're describing this is it's like I'm sitting in a classroom and I hear a student coughing,
Mm-hmm.
and they're coughing and they're coughing. And you finally go up and say, dude, you got to, you go see a doctor, okay? Or we're going to watch you. But it's not quite that way. It's a lot more subtle.
Yes. Don't be afraid to reach out. Okay. Every time that I have these educational opportunities, whoever is listening, I'm tagging you. Okay. You're it now. You cannot just go through life saying, "No, I don't know anything about suicide." Now you know. Okay. So you're it. I tag everybody that I talk to. So there are ways to do that. Okay. If you suspect that somebody is thinking about hurting themselves, ask them. Ask them just plain blank. Are you thinking about killing yourself? Are you thinking about harming yourself? There is this notion that if you ask that question, we're planting the seed. No, the seed is already planted. Okay? If you ask that question, that person might feel relieved to know that you care and that you're there to help. So ask the question. Okay? Are you planning on hurting yourself? Are you going to kill yourself? What's happening here? Don't talk to them in public. Talk to them in private. And ask them what's going on. I want to know what's going on. And when they start talking, let them talk. Don't interrupt. Don't share your experiences with them. Don't minimize their pain. If they're going through a divorce, through a breakthrough, don't tell them, "Oh, there's plenty of men or women out there." Don't do that. Just listen to them. Just acknowledge what they're feeling. I get it. You're going through a hard time. This is very painful to you. Let's get some help. I go with you. Let's get some help. Now, if you walked in a room and the suicide is happening, call 911. Okay? Don't go have the conversation. Call 911 first. Make sure that you are safe. Okay? And if you're safe, go ahead and you can go and join, and talk to the person. If the person tells you, "Yes, I'm very depressed and I'm thinking about killing myself," even if they don't tell you that they want to end their life, call 988. Okay? There are counselors waiting. You call 988. You're going to go through a few prompts, that one, this, that, but it's very short, and talk to somebody. It doesn't matter how long you talk to them. They're there to help. Okay? If it's the person if it's, let's say, for example, I am thinking about hurting myself, I'll call 988, right? Or if I am with Carmen and Carmen is the one that is thinking about hurting herself, I can call 988 for Carmen. Okay? I tell people, call even if the person is not with you. So that way you know what to do when you go and are with the person.
And the thing about the resources is that it's free, completely free. You can go, and if there's a company, for those that are listening, if you are part of a church, a school, a company, an organization, a charity, anything. And I'm telling you, you walk out of these classes and you feel empowered in the sense of, at least I know a percentage of what I need to do.
Hey, by the way, if you've just tuned in, you're listening to Many Faces, the program for the StellaNova Foundation. Find out more at StellaNovaFoundation.org. The Texas suicide rate is higher than the national average. Suicide rate in Texas has increased almost 30% in the last 2 decades.
Texas is also one of the low funding states. And that's another thing that the foundation does. We have Capitol Day, where we actually go to the Capitol and speak to the people that are passing laws and making those decisions that affect you to the local level. I think it's very important for these senators and congressmen and people to know, hey, we are in a crisis. Suicide is a health issue that affects everyone. It's not just a certain group or a certain population. It's everyone, every age. So I think that's one of the beautiful things that, we go every year to speak to these congressmen, to these senators, and say, this is the reality of what's happening. So there's a lot of laws, like 988 was passed. We were one of many organizations that banging doors. This is a need of why 988 lunch. And it has saved lives. And it's only been out not even 3 years, I think. Still very new. And still a lot of people don't know about it.
Good for you. That's a great idea. Well, that's one of the reasons we're doing this right now.
Yep.
So more and more people can know. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in Texas. In Texas, more men than women take their own life. Why is that?
What I understand, okay, is that women don't like to leave a mess.
And men don't care?
That's what, and don't quote me on that, okay? But that is the knowledge that I have, that women don't like to leave the mess.
So you asked me earlier, how do I keep Latrice's memory alive? I put on a event every year that highlights Men's Health Month. And we talk about these things. I think when it comes to men's health and talk about mental health for men, men in general are, they don't go to the doctor to get checked. They wait last minute to really, take care of their priority. When it comes to mental health, they have that stigma that I don't need to get help. I'm a man. And so it goes back into, suffering in silence. So, this event that I put together highlights the importance of, men, you also are very valuable to take care of your mental health. It's also okay if you have been struggling, and men need to support each other. So when it comes to that statistics, it's right on there, men suffer in silence. It's a stigma behind machismo, being strong or being weak. It's the same thing of suicide. Oh, if you seek help, you're a weak person, but it's actually a very, very strong sign of the strength and resilience that you have.
Makes a lot of sense. Appreciate that. So with this foundation, do you have like a hotline if somebody is calling up and saying, I'm going to kill myself, help me, or talk me out of it? Or is that the 988?
The 988.
Okay.
The 988 line.
Wow, it's amazing. Well, how can listeners become part of breaking the silence, even in a small, everyday way? Other than saying, and I like what you said before, you're it now because you just heard all the information you need to know. Now you got to remember it and spread it.
Yes. There are 74 chapters in Texas. And we have chapters, there are 74 chapters nationwide, and there are 4 chapters in Texas, including Puerto Rico as well. You can get on our website, www.afsp.com. org. And you can get all the information there. You can also call. You can also call us. And there is somebody that it's going to be waiting for you. Like Carmen said, we are based on volunteers, and we're always, enough people is not enough. Okay.
Yeah. Also on social media, if it's just AFSP, that's our national website. And honestly, there's different ways to get involved. There's people that get involved by us. We're volunteers. We're actively in the community. You can just educate yourself. You can just be part of our walks, our fundraising events, and just spread the word. If you go to afsp.org, you basically look of where you live. This is nationally in every state, even Puerto Rico. Get involved with your chapter, be part of it. You can also be trained. So I'm trained, Vanessa's trained on educating these classes that we do for the community, or really just pass the conversation and pass the message that, hey, there's people that, can help you.
Today we've heard courage in 2 forms: the courage to share personal loss and the courage to speak up with professional wisdom. Both remind us that the suicide is not the end of the story. It's a call for us to notice, to reach out, and to stand with those who feel alone. So if you or someone you care for is struggling, please know there is help, there is hope, and you're not alone, and you're deeply valued. And to anyone listening who has walked this path, the honor of your loved ones not only is honoring them by remembering them, but by helping others find the light that they couldn't see. I'm Scott Arthur. This has been Many Faces. Thank you for joining us in this conversation. Let's keep it going together. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other.
The StellaNova Foundation is a Houston-based 501c3 organization whose mission is to provide resources to those experiencing mental health issues who may not have access to treatment or care. Find out more at StellaNovaFoundation.org. The Many Faces of StellaNova is a podcast for the StellaNova Foundation, and it's available on your